They call themselves Surenos. To outsiders, just another street gang. But look closer, this isn't some ragtag group tagging walls and hustling corners. The Surenos are one of the most far-reaching criminal networks in America. Born in the prisons of California, shaped by decades of bloodshed, and commanded under the iron grip of the Mexican mafia. This is not chaos, it's a system, a machine. And once you step inside, it doesn't let you walk away. It all begins in the late 1950s, inside the overcrowded, violent prisons of California. Picture it, inmates crammed into steel cages, men from different barrios forced together. Northern California farm workers, Southern California city kids, different lives, different cultures, suddenly locked in the same cells. And the tension? It was inevitable. By the early 1960s, the divide was clear, North against South, Norteños against Surenos. The line wasn't just geography, it became survival. Then came the Mexican Mafia, La M, founded in 1957 at the Duel Vocational Institution. Their mission was simple: domination. These weren't small-time hustlers. They were soldiers with a vision to control every Hispanic inmate in California through extortion, drugs, and fear. And they did. If you were from Southern California, you fell in line. You became a Sureno. If you resisted, you became a target, and nobody wanted to be on the wrong side of La M. The war lines were drawn in 1968 at San Quentin State Prison. The California Department of Corrections recognized it officially. Hispanic inmates split in two, North and South. The Norteños found protection under Nuestra Familia, a rival gang born from Northern California's agricultural heartlands. But the Surenos, they bent the knee to La M. From that moment forward, blood would spill like water. One of the first major sparks came in 1972. A Nuestra Familia soldier, Alonso Pachi Alvarez, was stabbed to death at San Quentin by La M operatives. That murder wasn't random. It was a declaration of war, a promise that neither side would rest until the other was buried. What followed was years of riots, stabbings, and ambushes behind prison walls. Entire yards transformed into battlegrounds, men killed for the colors they represented. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, La M wasn't just ruling prisons, they were stretching their control onto the streets. Southern California gangs from East Los Angeles to San Diego were told, "Join the Surenos or suffer the consequences." And almost all complied, because to refuse La M was to sign your own death certificate. It wasn't just about loyalty, it was business. Men like Joe Pegleg Morgan, a notorious La M member, built connections with powerful Mexican drug cartels. Suddenly, Sureno gangs weren't just neighborhood crews, they became distributors for cartels like Sinaloa. Cocaine, heroin, meth, they moved it all. Money poured in, power expanded, violence followed. But here's the thing most people don't realize. The Surenos aren't one single gang, they're a network. A franchise, if you will, dozens, hundreds of local cliques, each with its own identity, but all paying tribute upward to La M. It's decentralized, yet tightly controlled. The shot callers behind bars dictate the orders. On the streets, cliques carry them out. That structure allowed them to expand beyond California into Arizona, Texas, Nevada, Illinois, even as far as North Carolina. Wherever Hispanic youth looked for identity, the Surenos offered one. Belong to us, and you'll never walk alone. Refuse us, and you might not walk at all. Arizona in the early 1990s is a perfect example. Ramon Mundo Mendoza, a La M associate, gets transferred there because of prison overcrowding. Within weeks, he's reorganized local inmates under the Sureno banner. Violence ensures compliance. Small-time Arizona gangs absorbed, resistant rivals eliminated. This became the blueprint for expansion. Infiltrate prisons, absorb local gangs, connect to the cartels, recruit the next generation, repeat. And it worked. By the early 2000s, Sureno influence stretched across the US, in Chicago, in Denver, in Houston, in Charlotte. Their power wasn't just measured in numbers, it was measured in fear. Because everyone knew, behind every Sureno clique stood the Mexican Mafia. And La M doesn't forgive. Here's the part that's even more chilling. Their economy is structured like a corporation. Drug trafficking is the backbone, but it's not just drugs. Extortion, human smuggling, weapons trafficking, all feeding the machine. And all of it taxed. Every Sureno gang pays tribute upward, refuse to pay, and you're green lit. That means open season. Any Sureno soldier anywhere has permission to kill you. That's how order is kept. Not with handshakes. With blood. Take the Vineland boys in Los Angeles. Originally independent. But once their members hit prison in the early 2000s, La M gave them a choice. Align with Surenos or face extermination. They fell in line. By 2004, they were paying taxes directly to La M. When the FBI cracked down, wiretaps caught gang leaders openly discussing payments. It wasn't a secret, it was policy. Same with Hawaiian Gardens. For decades, they were just a local gang. But by the 2000s, they too were folded into the Sureno network, carrying out La M's orders, even racial purges against African Americans. Federal indictments proved it. These weren't just street punks. They were soldiers in a war dictated by men in prison cells hundreds of miles away. And Florencia Trace, one of the most powerful Sureno gangs of all. By the late 1990s, they were directly linked to the Sinaloa cartel, distributing cocaine, heroin, meth across Los Angeles. When federal prosecutors came down on them in 2007, the indictments revealed a chilling truth. F-13 wasn't just a gang, they were an arm of international cartel operations. What makes the Surenos so difficult to dismantle is their adaptability. They're decentralized, so taking down one clique doesn't cripple the whole. They're bound by a ruthless code: respect la ley, pay your taxes, never snitch. Break the rules and you die. Simple, effective, terrifying. Inside prisons, they recruit men desperate for protection. On the streets, they target young Hispanic males kids looking for belonging, identity, protection. The promise is intoxicating: money, respect, power. But once you're in, you don't get out. Ever. Think about the reach here. Local gangs in California, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, all folded into one system. Extortion rackets targeting businesses. Human trafficking operations charging migrants thousands and forcing them into labor or prostitution if they couldn't pay. Gun-running operations, smuggling American firearms into Mexico for cartel use. And always the same cycle. The money flows upward, the blood flows downward, and La M sits at the top. Even federal crackdowns only scratch the surface. Operation Knockout in 2010, 88 arrests, hundreds of firearms seized. But the trade kept going, because you can arrest soldiers. You can even arrest shot callers, but you can't kill an idea built on fear, loyalty, and profit. That's the legacy of the Surenos. They aren't just another gang story, they're a case study in how prison politics can spill into neighborhoods. How one prison gang, the Mexican Mafia, can create a network that stretches across states, across borders, even across generations. And their influence isn't fading, it's evolving. So the next time you hear someone dismiss gangs as local problems, remember this. Surenos began as a prison survival group. Today they're a transnational criminal network, loyal to a mafia that rules from behind bars. And whether it's drugs on your streets, shootings in your city, or cartel pipelines crossing the border, there's a good chance, somewhere in that chain, there's a Sureno. And the most chilling part, their story isn't finished, it's still being written in blood.